Thank you. Fucking hell. Thank you. Yes. Well, I think it's about time that we get rolling. What say you? Welcome in, everyone, to the Vision Corsa IndyCar Series presented by the Prodigy Racing Association. I'm Thomas Cuthbert, also known as Orion. I'm here to bring you this race. Today, we are in week 6 of our IndyCar Series schedule of Season 4 of the Vision Course IndyCar Series. We're headed to Indianapolis yet again. And of course, we end the first half of the season off the way we always do around here, the Indy Oval. The Indy Oval, an absolute classic track for these Indy cars to hit the road on. And we get to see it once again, and this time with some new faces. Oh, and that's a big crash. We are observing with the practice right now, and there are some big crashes that are taking place around us. That was Matthew Bird, who just went into the wall. And trust me, we'll get to that because there's a lot to go over even in the practice session. Let's start by having a look at all of our drivers. Robert Hensley drives the 00. In the number 2 is Daniel Durazo. We bring in a new driver driving the number 6 in Robert Fisk. Joining him in the 06 is Zach Lesenby. Roger Saucier in the number 7. Danny Ray in the 08. And Matthew Bird in the 9. It's Joe Nurton in the 10, Ben Zahn in the 11, but there may need to be an update to the list at some point. Don't fully know if everyone on this list will be still on the roster by season's end. Ben Zahn in particular, I'm curious about, see what has gone on in his case, but we'll keep you up to date on any updates that result from that. Marlo Duncan pilots the number 12 and is helping in the back end of the series as well. And you got Jimmy Sala in the 14. Bob Gangwer driving the 15. Spoiler alert, Bob Gangwer on the track for today's race, as well as Robert Hensley. We'll get to see the both of them again as they'll look to move their way up the standings and get some more experience in the open wheel world. Aaron Fontaine pilots the 18. He will be on track for today and has actually put down one of the best practice times on the board right now. We'll get to that later, though. David Nannon in the 21, alongside Daniel Blanco joining us from the Sunset Bend Street Stock Road Course Challenge. As Grid Finder, in its big partnership with the Prodigy Racing Association, has brought those two along, and they have helped provide some nice competition, as well as plenty of help across the board, setting up series and events that will be taking place later. Adam Miller pilots the 25, Kyle Decker the 26, and Micah Mixer the 28, and Rodney Roberts, a man who runs it all, the 29. Christopher Mullins in the 32, Alex Jones the 45, having given up the number 1 from Season 2, and did not win the series in Season 3. In fact, the winner is not participating in this season, so the number is just open. Guillermo Perret in the 52, Nick Russell the 53, Nick Polliard the 55. Andy Zhao will pilot the 69, Matthias Marcomini the 77, Jacob Schneider the 81, Austin LeBlanc the 111, Spencer Torrance the 120, Ali Chastain 136, Brad Marath 384. Wonder what's happened to him. Haven't seen him around in a little bit. And Paul Boomershine in the 925. You will notice there is a number 93 Joey Kuba in the standings on the board, but as him registering as a driver, it's just part of the controls that he needs. So he will not be registering any points. And we are able to move along with our standings. Currently in the standings, Micah Mixer, after his victory last week, regains the lead in the series, now leading by 6 over Marlo Duncan. Alex Jones in third at the moment, tied with Nick Polliard. There's no tiebreaker with this yet. Right now, it just has Jones listed higher than Polliard, probably because it's based off last name alphabetics. Aaron Fontaine in fifth at the moment, Joe Nurton sixth. James Nias, as you may have noticed, was not in our roster list. He was removed from the roster earlier in the past week and will no longer be eligible to gain any more points. He is still part of the top 10. His points will stay on the board up until the point he falls to last place, which may not happen. But he'll be on the board. He will not be participating anymore. We'll probably do what we did with the Sunset Bend series. I'll put an asterisk and retired. Anyway, Matthias Marcomini in 8th, Jimmy Salo in 9th, Bob Gangwer in 10th. Big thing to note, of course, the top 5 only separated by 45 points. You could gain 45 in a single race, of course, based on a victory. But still, these points are relatively close, at least in the top 5. And then we keep on rolling with the rest of our standings. That's not what we wanted. Apologies for that. Zach Lesenby was actually the man that was on screen for a split second, is 11th at the moment. Spencer Torrance in 12th. Rodney Roberts 13th. Kyle Deckard in 14th. And David Nannon in 15th. Adam Miller, Matthew Bird, Nick Russell, Christopher Mullins, and Danny Ray round out the top 20. Robert Hensley, Andy Zhao, Roger Saucier, and Ali Chastain wrap up our standings for today. No driver has been confirmed to be out for this race, so we are able to roll right along here as we hit the grid and have a look at the track. We've got about 3.5 minutes before our practice session, and we'll see if we can find anyone working on the draft, because the draft is actually a very, very important part of the race, not only gaining speed with the slipstream, but not losing your cornering ability. For those who are very well aware, these open wheel cars suffer from a concept known as dirty air, whereas normally in the world of stock car racing, there's not a lot of aerodynamics with those cars. You just get behind a guy and you go faster because of it. You don't have to worry about the turn because the way that those brakes turn, it's kind of not an issue. It's kind of not. You could do a lot of bump drafting. You could go right on the nose of someone, basically. You could do some side drafting nonsense. It's not as much of a story in that regard here in the world of IndyCar. You can't rely on the slipstream nearly as much because these cars are so over-engineered for supplying their own aero. Trying to add in another car in that world of aerodynamics actually makes things worse for the other car. The car behind gets hit with a concept called dirty air, and what happens there is I do know about the three-wedge star. What happens there with the dirty air is the car behind ends up losing out on cornering ability. It ends up in what's called understeer and loses its ability to go around corners because the air is interfering with how the aerodynamics of the car want to go. And a little bit of info that was just dropped in the chat for those of you paying attention. That is SilentCom20. That is Marlo Duncan. Thank you very much for all the help you've been with this IndyCar series. They will be going 3 wide to start this race. Just another way to give a nod to the world of Indy. We'd also like to give a thank you to Prisley14. I think I've seen your name before in and around the world of the PRA. Thank you for the follow, and thank you for supporting the Prodigy Racing Association in all its efforts, as Matthew Bird is having some fun bringing that car, looping it around to the pits, as you can see. He's currently in 3rd in the practice session, which is kind of funny. Messing around with, who is that in front? That's Bob Gangwer. There's Robert Hensley going around the track. Good to see him yet again. Who is the driver we've been having? So I think it's Danny Ray. What he's been doing is a lot of showing up in practice, but then not qualifying and not racing, which unfortunately means he doesn't get any points for the race that he shows up for, but unfortunately doesn't participate in. So hopefully we'll get to see him on the track for the actual race. He's putting up good times. 39.718 was his best recorded practice time. We will, of course, have our standings thing because that will give us access to the flags, and you can see the meatball already on Fisk. And we'll actually have a look to see if that man really is that damaged. Yeah, he's crab walking. Yeah. Matt Bird's just having some fun. He's ready to roll. He's got some good times on the board. I don't know if he's destroying the tires that he'll have to use later on, but that's neither here nor there. Qualifying session now about to begin. The practice session is about to flick off. And we're about to get our qualifying started. We are going to follow the likes of that man, number 6, Robert Fisk, who will hopefully be on the track. The flag for damage needed should also fade away. You can see a whole lot of drivers here. Who's going to be our first man on the grid? Alex Jones hanging out. They may be getting more briefing from the drivers' meeting, but Marlo Duncan will have no time for it and immediately is headed to the track. So Marlo Duncan will be the first car that we have a look at. The Vision Corsa teal scattered from head to toe in all the stinking frogs. There's just frogs everywhere. And to that, I give a big thank you to Marlo for even wanting to do something like that. She did not have to put all that effort into the car, but she did. And now trying to put all that effort into the track and get a good qualifying time, move up the grid, and put herself in a good spot for this race. Oh, that's not what you want to see. Ends up colliding into the wall, swinging a little bit too hard, and will bring the car to a stop and head to pit lane and try again. Unfortunately, burned a lap of qualifying with that crash. Oh, a little bit of a nip. So here's Robert Fisk. Whoa, that's not a good exit. He'll need to reset if he wants these qualifying laps to count. You cannot full speed around that corner on the out lap. You'll need to be a little more patient. Not a bad first lap from Joe Nerton. 39.671 is his time, but I want to see Robert Fisk. I want to see what this man's got up his sleeve. Nice and easy, and now full send it. Bob Gangler takes pole position. Mark Romini immediately with the snipe. 39.51 currently our best time. Danny Ray has qualified. Nice. So Robert Fisk will go through his outlap, now approaching his first flying lap of this qualifying session. Whoa, does not stay off the wall, does collide. I believe that contact is going to nullify this lap time and may even damage the car just a little bit and potentially cause some problems for the times upcoming. But he's still going to keep on rolling. The car still looks to be an okay nick, but he hits the wall again. This one more of a rub. More of a rub-in. We are 3 minutes into our qualifying session, and Fisk's time will not count because of the contact made, and he'll need to go again. Round turn one, nice and easy. Get the track map up. Just out of turn two now. Stays off the wall this time around turn three. And loops around once more. Fisk's first time on the board. For the Prodigy Racing Association, let's see where he ranks here. Looks like an all right lap, even with the damage he may have incurred. And that's not bad at all. A 39.073 is not a bad time for your first qualifying lap. Here's Zach Lesenby looking to put his name on the board. Marlo Duncan up to third at the moment, a 0.028. Difference on Aaron Fontaine, who has pole position, as Lesenby's just finished up what looks to be the outlap. Avoids the wall. Oh, that will nullify the lap time. A big collision into the wall. And Lesenby will bring the car to a stop and head to pit lane. Hensley not on the track. Micah Mixer is. Mixer currently the best driver in the IndyCar series this season. And put down a strong lap time in practice. We'll see if he can replicate that result today. Marlo Duncan has pole position for the moment, but Joe Nurton immediately snipes it right back. The first 38 on the board belongs to Nurton. And now around goes Micah Mixer. And Mixer will take pole position for now, a 38.885, as this camera is really jittery and does not work well at all. Whoa, watch it. A little bit squirrely out of turn two. But does make it through turn three quite all right. And looks like turn four will be much of the same. And Micah Mixer puts up a solid little performance here. Gets up to first on the board. Does not improve the time in the second lap. But it appears that no one else has as well. Here's Danny Ray. Put down a 40.281. What you just heard there was maths. Zach Lesenby with a good time there. Gets up to 6 on the board. Not bad. Not bad at all. Micah Mixer around the track for his final time will now bring the car to a stop. And we'll bring this qualifying session to an end. We are going to head to a quick commercial break. This way, whenever we want to get rolling with the race, there will not be a single person who walks in and has to deal with an ad as they walk in. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We're just back on the track as Zach Lesenbeet did have a few more laps in him, but has moved up to third at the moment, so I believe this grid will stay as is. Robert Hensley has not hit the track for qualifying. Lesenbeet still with one more lap to go. Down the final straightaway, let's see what he can do. 38.885 to beat, and unable to do it. Cannot get past Micah Mixer. Ends up with a 39 flat. And that'll be his time. It puts him in third at the moment. I had a Marlo Duncan. They will start on row 2. And I don't see a single other driver hitting the track. What? Why? Where are all the shadows? Is that lights? It just looks like a light turns on if you hit a driver that's on the grid. Anyway, welcome in, everyone. We're going to go back to the grid. Zach Lesenbeet was on the track for just a little bit. 39 seconds, his final time for qualifying. No hidden. Hope you're all enjoying your time here today. This is the car of Danny Ray. Danny Ray is not going anywhere. Danny Ray has no intent of qualifying any further. He'll be on the back row alongside Bob Gangwer, should the both of them grid. Something Danny Ray hasn't done very much of. It's all right. It's his choice whether he wants to actually participate in the race or not. We appreciate that he is here during the qualifying session, but we'd like to see him get on the track as well. What can he do? How can he keep up with the people? Can he keep up with the people? So this qualifying session is about to come to a close, and then we will immediately head to our grid on the board. That's not right. What in the world? Huh? What? I don't know what's... Oh, it must be... I don't know what it's nuking, but anyway. Let's see what we got. We'll take the track map off the screen as we see our grid for the first time. It's Micah Mixer in pole position who will join Joe Nerton in row 1. Zach Lesenbeet with his 39 flat will be joined by Marlo Duncan. That's not right. Training Paints does not touch you, I guess. Aaron Fontaine and Matthew Bird will be on row 3 for this race. The newcomer Robert Fisk will be in the top 10, joining Mark Hamini on row 4, about the halfway mark of the grid today. Alex Jones and Bob Gangler will be on row 5, and Danny Ray will have, it's Joey Kuba, who will be with him on row 6. I believe there's one other driver, and yes, there is. It is Robert Hensley, who is on the grid for this race, and I believe, do I also see Danny Ray? Danny Ray on the track. Let's go. 12 drivers will be on the grid as Joey Kuba, there he was for a hot second, will not actually be participating. We just need Marco Media to hit the track. Matthias! And then we can show you the glory that these drivers are intending. I don't think Blimp works because this giant tower in the way. Mark Hamini is on the track. And the drivers are off. And now the fun begins as we set up a 3 wide. That's right, folks. We are going 3 wide for this race. Everyone trying to get in position for their bunches. Robert Fisk will be in the inside line of the 3rd bunch. That second line is looking clean. Like birds. There you go. Oh, that's good. Marcamini, come on up. Matthias, you need to move up. Almost there. We're almost there. These guys need to be careful. I think it looks like one of them might have clipped the grass. I think it was Gangler who caught some grass. And Hensley, you need to go to the outside. Hensley, we're 3 wide. You need to go to the outside. We got the first 2 rows looking pretty good. Look at that. Look at that. That's enough gawking at the sight of the 3 wide. We got a race to focus on. Let's hit the sky. Watch as the... around turn 3. He's got the track map back on. This is around turn 4, rather. The pace car soon to dive into pit lane. They're 3 wide, all 4 rows. Into pit lane goes the pace car. The lights are up. And we are green flag racing at Indianapolis for the first half of this season's conclusion. It'll start with Micah Mixer in the front. He'll have Nerton and Lesenby to deal with as Duncan tries to immediately shoot on up the standings. He'll move up to 4th off the start. For now, it'll be Danny Ray who backs up just a little bit to give the rest of the drivers time as Marlo Duncan side by side alongside Lesenby. Thankfully, they do not make contact. They can keep on rolling. Maybe a little bit of a bump from the back end thanks to Aaron Fontaine, but no damage incurred as these drivers are in a tight pack here around turn 3. Possibly a little contact with Jones from Bird. The 2 of them get out of it okay. Fisk on the inside of Duncan looking to take 4th away in his first race here in the Prodigy Racing Association's IndyCar Series. Aaron Fontaine able to sneak by Duncan for this first lap of action. 40 laps on the Indy Oval. A little bit of contact with the wall for one of these drivers. I believe it was Fontaine, but he ends up okay. It's Fontaine again who gets a good chunk of the wall in the rear right of the car. He needs to be careful of that as this race continues. Mixer in the lead with a 1/3 of a second advantage. It's Nerton, Lesenby, Fontaine. Duncan now under pressure from Fisk. Fisk alongside on the inside, and he'll take that 5th place away for the moment. Duncan's going to have overspeed to work with, though. Fisk cuts across to the outside to take the lane away. A good start so far for Robert Fisk. Already made his first move as Hensley has already hit the pits for the first pit stop of the race, and it looks like Danny Ray will be joining him. An early first pit stop for these drivers. And Duncan hits the wall pretty hard. Jones does as well, and one of them's lost the wheel. That's Gangwer. Bob Gangwer hits the wall hard on the outside, and that car is seriously damaged. May need to dive into pit lane and is immediately setting up to do just that. We're on board now with Matthew Bird. Keeping up with Duncan, but has to contend with the dirty air. We mentioned this already in qualifying. It's going to be indeed crucially important to keep in mind as we go through these 40 laps. These cars do not like being directly behind someone up their nose. Fisk ends up floating a little bit to the outside, but ends up okay. Robert Fisk in 5th at the moment, looking for a way past Fontaine. As Duncan hits the wall again and Bird gets by, that's P6 for Matthew Bird. It's Michael Mixer in the lead at the moment. Aaron Fontaine and Robert Fisk in the top 5. 5 laps in, the first pit stops have already come through and cost them drivers quite a bit of time as Lesenby this time gets a little bit of wall. Joe Nerton starting to keep up just a little bit, but a battle going on a little further back. The battle for P7. It's Mark Camini now putting pressure on Duncan. May have incurred damage and a little contact with the wall, and Mark Camini on the inside will get by. A little bit of a lift. You can hear these drivers are being extra cautious around these turns on this rectangular oval known as Indianapolis. Around turn 4, Mark Camini in a solid 7th. As a blink from Mixer. Wait till he comes back. There he is. Something to keep in mind with him is Joe Nerton's right behind him. Less than 0.2 of a second is Joe Nerton. Looks on the inside, is alongside and is by. Joe Nerton grabs the lead for the first time this race. looking to shake things up in the winner column. Micah Mixer currently 5 for 5, or rather 4 for 4 on all races he's competed in. Was unavailable week 3. It came back with a vengeance. I may have that wrong. I believe it was actually week 4. Yeah, because week 3, I believe, was Road America. Yeah, he killed it. He was up by a hole. He lapped the entire field. And now is contending hard with Joe Nerton. Gets by him yet again. And Nerton will have to start from scratch to get that lead back. Hot here. Joe Nerton getting close to the back end. Be careful here, of course. He's contending with this dirty air very, very well. Loses a little bit of time on turn 3, 2-2 though. Not ideal for Nerton, but for now we can settle in. Focus on the grid as a whole. So far, only one incident on the board, and it belongs to Danny Ray. We did see a driver, I believe it was Bob Dangler, hit the wall pretty hard. Did not result in an incident. And Robert Hensley has just had a crash, and that car is in pieces. He takes the tow right away to get out of everyone's trouble. And it looks like Duncan may have come with him. No, that is a normal pit stop for Marlo Duncan. Possibly some damage that'll need to be repaired. I believe the flag you're seeing is to Hensley, as Marlo Duncan for sure does not have that much damage. As we're going to have a look at the replay, this is Danny Ray from earlier. Was exiting pit lane right behind Robert Hensley. Unsure exactly where the incident in this is, as Aaron Fontaine has ended up in a crash and is now in pit lane, and we'll have to look and see as Joe Nerton is now in the lead yet again, but Lesenby also putting pressure on Micah Mixer. This battle for the lead right now looking pretty strong, but first let's have a look at what happened to Aaron Fontaine. I'm sure he'll be in here for a hot second, being like skill issue and leaving it at that. But let's see exactly where the skill issue took place. Floats a little bit too far to the outside, collects the wall, and it goes for a spin, clatters into the wall again, trying to stop that car immediately and get the tow to pit lane before he interferes with any of the traffic on the track. Good to see him watching out for his fellow drivers with a tool that real-life drivers do not have. Use what you have to make the driving safer for everyone. Right now it's Micah Mixer back in the lead again. Robert Fisk, look at him go. Robert Fisk right now, only half a second down on Lesenby, is very much in this race. Yeah, these turns suck. You're valid. Aaron Fontaine, of course, helps us out in the chat, part of the media group for the Prodigy Racing Association. Now, big thank you to Aaron for all the work that you do around the Prodigy Racing Association. And, of course, entertaining myself when I'm looking for, hey, why is this guy going to the pitch with the black flag? Which, of course, unfortunately, I don't have the answer. I wish I did, by the way. Tazalia, thank you very much for the follow of the Prodigy Racing Association. Much appreciated for the support you've given us here for the PRA. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're having a wonderful time observing the Indianapolis Raceway Oval here with the IndyCar Series presented by the Prodigy Racing Association, working with Vision Corsa. We're going to go on board now with Micah Mixer, currently in second at the moment as Joe Nerton's got by again. And this time built up a little bit of a gap, 2/10 yet again. And the dirty air, a problem here for Mixer. But he gets out of turn 1 so cleanly. The entry into turn 2 looks good. Exits fine, but Nerton gets a better run. It's part of the thing, you have to sort of combat the dirty air, and you got to get the better end of it. But the slipstream, of course, will help you out, as it looks like Matthew Bird's had some trouble here, as Mark Humini was able to overtake him and Fisk and move up to 4th. Unsure exactly how that had taken place, but that is a 4th as P4 for Mark Humini. Excuse me. Woo. All right, cool. We got the hiccups. Genius. Robert Hensley has registered as out for this race. As it seems he has called it a day after the crash that he suffered. Good to see Robert Hensley on the track for the little bit we did get to see. But unfortunately, his race comes to a close. So right now, the story is Joe Nurten. Look at him go. Currently in P1 and extending his lead over Micah Mixer. But is this at the cost of perhaps some fuel economy? Is he going to have to pit for longer to get some fuel in his car? A strategy that unfortunately may end up costing him, as Micah Mixer has been truly next level as far as fuel saving and fuel planning in his pit stops. It's hard to contend with Micah Mixer on the track. It's another thing to contend with his pit strategy work as well. Micah Mixer has done an excellent job in that regard and has closed the gap quite a bit here on Joe Nurten. Got it down to about a 10th and a half before having to back up. Micah Mixer, your series leader at the moment. Currently being threatened for his perfect season. It will not be a perfect season as he was not present for one of the races, but it's 4 for 4 on his races so far this season. Joe Nurten looking to make it 4 for 5, and we're about a third of the way through this race. He's in a good spot to do just that, but has plenty more racing to go. We've got 25 laps remaining here on the Indy Oval, and of course the drivers will need to make their pit stops at some point this race. As Marlo Duncan, Aaron Fontaine, well, it's Marlo Duncan only who's going for a long game strategy, pitted very early, looking to catch the other drivers off guard and save some fuel all the way to the end for a one-stop shop. I believe that is a strategy. It may not be the case. We did see a couple other drivers go into pits early for damage repairs. Thankfully, Duncan did not need to do that. Right now, the three-person battle has become a two-person battle as Micah Mixer getting very, very close to the back end of Joe Nurten, but backs out of it. Doesn't want to make a move here on the straightaway. And will stick with this for now. And now that little bit of a let-off has allowed Zach Lesenby to join the fray here. And Joe Nurten's going to get moved on by both of them. Lesenby with so much speed looks to get alongside Micah Mixer. Mixer's gotten past Nurten, and Lesenby past Micah Mixer. Shoots up to the lead, but Micah Mixer on the outside will not give it up. The two of them back and forth. And now Mixer in the lead. Lesenby takes second place. What a lovely bit of racing from these three. And now Mark Kumini right in the mix. And Lesenby's gotten by, and this time it's a clean advantage. Zach Lesenby, your new race leader here on lap 19. A nice bit of racecraft there from Lesenby and Mixer as Joe Nurten has lost out a little bit of speed. But so is Mark Kumini as there's Matthew Bird who will sneak on by, grab fourth, swing to the outside for turn 3, immediately crash in, get that apex and keep on rolling. Mark Kumini, though, close behind. Lesenby will go to the pits. Micah Mixer will go back to the lead. Alex Jones in pit lane as well. As Joe Nurten loses second, then third to Bird and Mark Kumini. Couple drivers will make their first pit stop of the day. Micah Mixer back in the lead, a comfortable lead as well. 8/10 on Matthew Bird. And around turn 4. Will now head to pit lane himself, and he'll have Matthew Bird and Mark Kumini right behind him. Looks like Fisk and Nurten will join them in pit lane. So we'll go to Zach Lesenby on his way out of pit lane. As Marlo Duncan will assume the race lead as she makes her way around the track. Looks like iOverlay is more accurate about cars in pit lane. As now approaching the start line. Will take the lead. But a couple drivers already getting back onto the circuit. It is Micah Mixer and Matthew Bird. Everyone's out of pit lane now, and it looks like Lesenby ends up with a better run out of pit lane. Nope, that's him just on the track. Forgot he pitted a lap earlier. And he'll be ahead of Mixer for now, but it's 3.5 back of Duncan. So Marlo Duncan with the early pit strategy, able to reap the rewards for now as she takes the lead. Another driver will go into pit lane. That's Danny Ray who steps in. Marlo Duncan with the lead. So now the best part for Duncan's race is that with Lesenby, Mixer, and Bird all on top of each other, it's possible the three of them end up slowing each other down, battling for a position, which will let Marlo Duncan sort of let this strategy come to roost, allow it to play itself out, and let the early pit stop give her open space on the track to just focus on nailing the corners, hitting the marks, and going on through. Will likely be pitting soon, however, and we'll look to see this strategy come to pass. Although, what exactly is the strat here? Because it looks like these drivers went in to pit lane pretty much a full fuel stop. So if that's the case, then Marlo Duncan would need to hit pit lane soon. And while a little bit of wall contact may have derailed the race a little bit, ends up in a pretty comfortable spot. Around turn 4. Duncan staying on the track. Again, I'm not the most familiar with fuel strategies in this series. Fun fact, the only time that I ever ran this series was in season 2, and I may or not have wrecked a couple dudes. One of them is Scuba. I wrecked the hole, and I think it was Brad Morat's side pod at Scuba. I felt so bad. I definitely ruined someone's race on the ball. My experience with IndyCar is not nearly as pleasant as these drivers. I'll say that much. And Bob Gangler and Danny Ray also in pit lane as we are heading to turn 4 for Duncan again. Stays out. I'm not wholly familiar with all the strategy in place here for Marlo Duncan. What I do know is that Micah Mixer now battling with Lesenby for P2 and will get on by. Lesenby trying to stay alongside and keep the battle rolling, but unable to do so. So for now, we mainly just ask the question of what exactly is the gain here for Marlo Duncan pitting so early in the race. Do you have enough in the tank to just run the entire track for like 35 laps? Possibly. Here's Danny Ray, our first bit of lap trouble, as Zach Lesenby will get on by. The pace car apparently wanted to stay high. Hello, pace car. We very much appreciate all the work you do in iRacing. Lesenby up to second now. This Mixer getting a little frisky with the wall. Needs to be careful. And this will be the pit stop here for Marlo Duncan. She'll have to step in and give the race lead up to Lesenby, who will now be contending with Mixer for the lead. Think about Lesenby. Lesenby's actually in a pretty comfortable spot because Danny Ray is ahead, giving a little bit of a draft maybe. There could be something there. I don't know exactly the relative on it. But there could be a little something there. And getting even a little something is going to do you a whole lot of good. And has a half a second lead on Mixer. My God. That's extending further. I think that is what's happening. I think Danny Ray is actually giving a small draft to Lesenby. Not enough to make the dirty air come into play, but enough to pull him away from Micah Mixer. And with 13 laps to go, once he crosses the line here, this could actually put Lesenby in a real good spot to win this thing. But the problem is he's catching up to Danny quite a bit. Remember, Danny Ray, one of the slower drivers in the practice session. Whether or not there's anything wrong with that's up to you to decide. But the problem with that is it means that this advantage will not last forever for Lesenby, and soon Mixer's going to get a chance to reap from it as well. Not to mention, Lesenby now has to contend with getting by Danny Ray, but Danny will make that part easy and goes way on the outside to give Lesenby and Mixer room. Even a little bit of a wall tap, and it'll immediately shoot to the inside. Missed the pit lane entrance, will not go into pit lane this time. But now, Mixer already has cut the gap in half. That was Matthew Burley, a bit of a blink, but he's okay. So now Lesenby right back where he started in this streak ahead of Mixer. So Marlon Duncan does get an advantage out of it, about 5 seconds. But the question is, will these drivers have to pit? And if that's the case, does Duncan have enough fuel to run the whole way? Mixer getting onto the inside and will get by Lesenby as we go to lap 30. 11 laps to go. Mixer and Lesenby pushing each other to the limit. Mixer may have clipped the wall just a little bit, but it looks like he didn't lose any speed. And any speed he did lose, Lesenby had to lose on the dirty air as well. Lesenby trying to contend with that dirty air, trying to manage the throttle well. Fifth gear moment. Not building up speed, a little bit of a weave from Mixer. Has made his one move and does not make any more. Lesenby cuts the gap down to 0.2 of a second. And a clean turn one from Lesenby. Turn two, though, not so much, and will lose out on some speed, and Mixer gets a bit of a gap out of it. Now trying to keep that gap that way and keep Lesenby away from that top spot. Robert Fisk in his first race, right now running 7th, right behind Alex Jones. He's put in some good work this race. And Lesenby putting in good work with the battle with Mixer, but nearly lost it all. Thankfully able to correct in time and does not hit the wall. That turn 2 from Lesenby is so clean. Getting very close to the bumper of Mixer out to turn 3. Trying to play the mind games. Nope, you're not playing an ad today. No, we are going to run this all the way through. 9 laps to go. And Lesenby right into the bumper of Mixer, who's trying everything in the book to get Lesenby away. And may have just clipped the wall again. Lesenby loses a little bit of time, though, in turn 2. Lesenby here. Still in P2, had to let it off, and not letting off. Ends up bringing that gap to 0.4 now. That's Bird and Marcamini. There we go. Oh, someone hit the wall for sure. I think it was Mixer who may have clipped the wall just a little bit. But it looks like he might have gotten away with it just a little bit. Lesenby losing time. It may have been him who hit the wall, because he's down to half a second now. Six laps to go. Mixer trying to keep Lesenby away. By any means necessary, Lesenby has cut the gap to a quarter of a second. Now looks to hold it here around turn 2. Mixer's getting that gap down a little bit more, Nice and easy around turn 3. Does not go into 5th gear at all for these turns. On the other side, Micah Mixer loves his 5th gear. But Lesenby's gaining on him. Lesenby, with 5 laps to go, is going to make this one hell of a fight here for the top spot at the Indy Oval, trying to spoil the perfection that Mixer's been running 4 for 4 in races this season. Lesenby doesn't have room for the over-under. Mixer desperately trying to break that slipstream. Lesenby snags it back. Does not go into 5th gear. I think that's what's costing him the most time. He's refusing to use that 5th gear. And Mixer immediately goes onto the inside every time to break the slipstream. And wastes no time this time going to the outside. I wonder if you can consider that a lead and penalize him, but from what I remember, that's not in the rule book for the Project Racing Association, so he is welcome to weave. And he's going to use that to the fullest extent that he can. Lesenby tried to read it. Doesn't quite have the room just yet. Ends up on the grass, spins, and spears the wall! Clips Bird as well on the way! Zach Lesenby had it, but goes a little bit too far on the inside and wrecks out at turn 3, and the cautionless race is no more. Zach Lesenby had it in his hands, but goes too far down and wrecks it. As Matthew Bird also got clipped and will need to go into pit lane. And this race is about to go down to the wire as Mark Humini and Bird right now in the 2-3, but Bird will have to head to pit lane and repair that flopping tire. And it looks like it may have caught Danny Ray as well as he's in pit lane. So Bird will immediately scoot on up. I think does need to give the position back, though. I'm not entirely sure on that one. But regardless, Bird's going to the pits. As he has the meatball flag out, needs to turn in, and will head to pit lane. Mark Tumini will assume second place then. And Joe Nerton will head to the pits as well and bring his race to a close. Is pit lane closed? Is that what the red is? Not entirely sure. So Alex Jones will move on up and get into that 3rd place position. Around the track will go Aaron Fontaine to get a lap back. What a sequence. I believe we are going to go green-white. And Mark Amini is going to have quite the task ahead of him. He's going to need to get on top of Mixer here. I believe because this caution's been going on for quite a while, we are going to see a green-white checkered flag come out. I'm assuming Lesenby is losing his mind. No, not yet. It's actually been pretty quiet. I was expecting the text chat to blow up when that happened. Thankfully, not the case. Hopefully, cooler heads prevailing on that one. I can't imagine we're not going green, white, checkered. I think it's got to happen. No. Yes, it will. Marlo Duncan is out on the track. Aaron Fontaine is out on the track, so unfortunately we cannot get the answer. This race may have just ended. Because the lights on the pace car are still on. Is that Gangwer? I think that's Gangwer in the back, yeah. That's Gangwer behind Mixer. Race is over, and there will be no green-white checkered flag as Zach Lesenby gave it his all, but unfortunately it wasn't able to grab victory as the caution flag will see the pace car escort the drivers around the track for their final time. Micah Mixer will take the victory and go 5 for 5 this season to cap off the first half of Season 4 of the Vision Corsa IndyCar Series presented by the Prodigy Racing Association. Folks, this one is over. Micah Mixer is your winner. And across the line, the pace car will escort the Mixer. Gonna have a little bit of fun. I think it's directly inside the car. Yep, you can do this in iRacing. And there's the crossing of the line. Micah Mixer, your winner. Mark Kamini will get second. Jones third. Fisk, in his first race, will get fourth position. Marla Duncan at the top 5. Nerton, Fontaine, Bird, Lesenby, Gangwer, Ray Hensley, the rest of the field. Oh, goodbye. Some of the drivers going to have a little bit of fun here as we will go to Mixer, who will go all the way to the checkered flag, to the finish line, and of course celebrate his victory. Marlo Duncan to join him. An unfortunate way for this race to end, but no green-white checkered in the series anymore means that this is how these races will end. And around turn 4 they'll go. Micah Mixer and Marlo Duncan, your top 2 in the series. Maintain that for now. Duncan will go into pit lane as Mixer will get victory lane all to his own. And the donuts will commence. Micah Mixer, your winner. At the Indianapolis Oval, caps off the first half of Season 4 of the Vision Corsa IndyCar Series. Big congratulations to him, and thank you to all the drivers who joined us for today. Come on. You got more. There we go. Get another one in there. This car does not want to spin on him. There we go. That was clean. That was nice. As we go to our schedule, we will go to the All-Star race at Talladega next week to commemorate their first half of the season coming to a close. We'll then go back to the road courses with Mid-Ohio, followed by the Iowa Speedway to cap off the month of April. And in May, it'll be Detroit, the Pocono Raceway, which will not be streamed by myself. Hopefully someone else will be able to pick that up. Barber and Michigan to wrap our season up. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been the Vision Corsa IndyCar Series in Season 4, presented by the Prodigy Racing Association. I'm Thomas Cuthbert, also known as Orion. I'll see you next week.